So as Dan mentioned, for this pathway, you had to take personality tests essentially to learn your communication style. We heard a great speech from Amy last week on the same topic. It turns out, Amy, me and you are pretty alike. I'm an initiating communicator as well. So those who are initiating are very energetic, enthusiastic, persuasive, but at times we can also take some of the air out of the room, meaning we talk more than maybe others who we're interacting with, and that can be a challenge. And in this speech, I'll talk a little bit about my experience as a commission-only salesperson, how I learned very quickly how to adapt to other communication styles. So who here has had a commission-only sales job, right? So they can be challenging, right? If you don't succeed, you really can't eat or pay your rent. So that was my world in 2015. Moved here from Orlando, Florida to Denver, Colorado. Sight unseen in an apartment. My boss said, "Hey, don't waste your time going to look at an apartment. You got to sell. Just sign the lease online." So I moved here and immediately started traveling to make some sales. And one of my first trips was to Aberdeen, South Dakota. Wow. Has anyone been to Aberdeen, South Dakota? I didn't think so. There's not much there. It's like a farming community. And I was pulling up to meet with this gentleman, John Mesmer. As I'm pulling up to his office, it's like a bunker. It's like literally one of those half-cylinder buildings into a hillside. And I go up, I get out the door, I go into the office to meet with John. And again, I'm initiating. So I am talking his ear off, learning about his kids, his wife, his ex-wife, he's a Marine, all of these different, just really trying to get to know him as best I can. And at some point he goes, "Ed, stop with the gobbledygook. Let's get down to business." So John was clearly a direct communicator. So for him, direct communicators don't like as much fluff. They don't like repeating. They like to get to the point. And with those types of folks, you really focus on solutions. So going forward with John, I would just focus on solutions. I wouldn't talk about his ex-wife. That was fine and great. Another individual that I met with early on, his name was David Donay. So he was in Spearfish, South Dakota, right around Sturgis. So the Black Hills, really cool area. And he was actually one of the biggest producers of kind of the investment that company I was working for. So he was across the whole country. He's in the middle of nowhere, Spearfish, South Dakota. So I pull up to his office again, thinking, "Oh, I'm just gonna get to know this guy." That's how I'm initiating. That's kind of what I want to do. So I start talking to him, and he immediately wants to drill real down into the portfolio. "Oh, I see you have a loan with XYZ gas company. I saw in the news that they're going through some trouble. What do you think about that loan?" I'm not very analytical like he is. So I said, "John, now you're speaking gobbledygook to me. So I don't know what you're talking about." But with him, fortunately, was able to connect him with a portfolio manager who would know quite a bit more about the investment offering and go into big detail with him. And analytical folks, again, they like to talk about the numbers, the facts, the figures. And it's also a good idea to give them time to absorb your answers and make sure that you answer all of their questions so that they can feel heard. And every time I would go visit David again, I would make sure to have someone available that is also analytical that I could connect him with and get his questions answered. And then the last individual I'll talk about, his name was Mike Miller. Mike had an office. It was actually out of his house. It was in his basement. So when he told me to come by, I was like, "Ed, just walk around the back of my house and come into my basement." A little creepy. But all right, I'll do it. And me and Mike hit it off. We're getting to know each other. We're talking about hiking. He lives in Whitefish, Montana. So we had this beautiful view from his basement office. We had a beer or two, and it turns out Mike is initiated, just like me. I think that's why we hit off so well. But it turned about 45 minutes into that meeting, and we didn't talk any business at all. So I had to adapt my communication style and say, "Hey, Mike, let's talk about what we came here to talk, or I came here to talk about. And we were able to kind of talk about the investment side of things after that. So it is really important to, and there weren't any folks that came to mind in the world that I would meet with that were supportive, so that's why I had the other three. But it's really important when you are meeting with people that you utilize some of the skills that you gained here in Toastmasters. So I didn't know about these different communication styles. This was just trial and error. But I think we have a big leg up where you go through this, and I think most pathways do the same project where you learn about your communication style. And my challenge to everyone is try and adapt your communication style more quickly to others. You can build relationships quicker. Maybe if you're in sales, make the sale quicker, but it allows others to be heard and feel included and connect with you, probably more so than you might feel. But since we have the leg up to do that, that's my challenge to everyone.